In a time that predates consoles being in nearly every family house, a game called Prince of Persia was released in 1989 for Apple's home computer, Apple II. It was then ported to other at that time emergent platforms such as Atari's PC, the Atari ST, and to Nintendo's Game Boy and the Super NES. It was also ported to the Sega Genesis and Sega CD, to list a few. Despite the enormous list of consoles this game was ported to and the copies sold, I can't sufficiently gauge to which extent was the game loved by the people who played it at that time. Needless to say, people weren't sharing their opinion online to the degree that they do nowadays. But as someone who had the opportunity to get my hands on it and its follow-up sequel, Prince of Persia 2: The Shadow and the Flame, which was released in 1993, I would say they both are a fairly complex and challenging platformer with few puzzles here and there. The combat is engaging throughout both of the games because of the fencing-like approach to enemy encounter, which often requires split decision to be made for when to take a step forward, when to attack or parry. I would argue those two games were the best of what would become the Prince of Persia series. Then, said series went through its awkward growing phase, thanks to the home gaming consoles boom of consoles such as the second generation of the PlayStation, the PS2, as well as the Xbox and the GameCube. And so, to accommodate the prevalent trend that followed those consoles in the late 90s to early 20s, lots of game developers were opting to ditch the perceivably outdated pixelated graphics and 2D worlds, and we're going for the new flashy 3D graphics with the old direction Roman environments. For Prince of Persia, this led to the series' first 3D game getting released in 1999. The game was creatively titled Prince of Persia 3D. It's a tank-controlled 3-dimensional world platformer. It wasn't a bad game. I liked it. However, it's a decent example of how clunky controls and having to fight with the game's camera can negatively affect a gaming experience. The subsequent games, specifically the ones released for the PS2, had smoother controls and a better, less dizzying camera. I tried looking up reviews published around the time each one of those games were released, and what I found was that those games mostly received a decent to great rating on gaming review websites. And reviews of new ports of those same games on newer platforms, like on Steam for instance, were just as positive, with people attaching the word classic to them. So, to summarize, Prince of Persia, a game series which had been overwhelmingly getting 7 and above rating for each of its sequels, that series had its last major game made 10 years ago. And whilst being owned by Ubisoft, it didn't get run to the ground with sequels. Suddenly Ubisoft can resist the urge of milking their games. Something is off. Honestly, I don't recall those games being huge hits. And if you take a wide-angle look at the whole series and compare it to other games similar to it or that were released around the same time, it'd be fair to say that the Prince of Persia franchise is not doing great. Maybe I'm missing something, so feel free to correct me on what I just said. And let me know if you like those post-Prince of Persia 3D games initially. Personally, I thought those sequels were going down the mediocre path at a time where it was crucial to stand out. It was a time where people were not just buying games because gaming as a whole was a new thing. and video games enthusiasts were willing to try any new game. Yeah, no, this was a time where games like Devil May Cry 2, Fable, Resident Evil 4, and others were getting released. So to put it simply, there were better games to play at that time. So although I bought some of those games expecting them to deliver, I don't think I played any of them till the end, to be honest. And unlike many PS2 games, I've no desire to go back and play them either. I think now that I play more platformers than I ever thought I would, it's becoming more obvious to me how inferior 3D platformers are to side-scroller platformers. And so, to see Prince of Persia return as a side-scroller with this new game, Prince of Persia: The Last Crown, I'm slightly hopeful that it'll be closer to the older games. I intentionally avoided the trailer because I don't want things spoiled for me, but through reading an article about the franchise in general, the trailer for The Last Crown was mentioned in not a positive way.
It's not last, it's the lost crown. Hi again, it's me from the future. I'm back after I've played a little bit of the Lost Crown. I want to share some of my thoughts on it, but before that, I want to properly say hi. So, hi and welcome to my channel. Just so you know, I only played the demo because, yeah, I'm not gonna buy a game without doing my research on it first. But for the sake of giving an honest first impression, I went in blind. So, first impression on the visual aspect of it is not good. The game has this Fortnite art style. In another word, it looks bland without an ounce of unique art direction. And about the main character, it's not only that he has this terrible lackluster design, he also has a straight-laced personality archetype, making him come across even more generic than how he looks. But despite that, I was like, okay, few dull in-game cutscenes along with characters' dialogue in the style of a visual novel with one singular sprite for each character aside, let's see what the gameplay is like. So, platforming in the game was okay. From what I played, making it through a level mainly required timing as opposed to having to figure out how to get across. Not to say that all of the areas were just walking straight ahead without a thought, but they didn't rise to inside level of puzzle platforming. The combat sealed the deal for me. When I saw the first enemy, I thought, okay, moment of truth, let's see what the fighting system is like. It was just basic hack and slash, nothing too fancy. I think with the older games fresh in my mind, I had false expectations for what that combat would be like. So, I don't particularly dislike hack and slash combat style on its own, but here, fighting the uninspired zombie-like enemies felt tedious. They didn't die quick enough for it to be fun and fast-paced encounter, nor were their attacks something you'd have to carefully consider how to approach them because of it. So, defeating them and then going back to doing more mundane platforming, yeah. At that moment, I was completely bored. I'm fully aware that I only experienced a short snippet of the overall game. I didn't even get to play against a boss. Maybe boss fights could save the gameplay. But I'm just a small micro channel. So I can't just spend money on a game that killed my interest in it in its demo to do a full review and see if it'll get better. But
How do you feel about it? Have you played it? Do you intend to play it? Let me know your thoughts on it. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you like it. Until the next video.